Well, today's elections offer a preview of the 2024 presidential race, and there is some growing concern among Democrats over President Biden's polling numbers. Now, the latest ABC News IPSOS poll shows that both Biden and former President Trump have major favorability issues. Only 33% of voters have a favorable view of President Biden versus 29% of former President Trump. This, as a former Obama chief strategist David Axelrod has suggested that Biden should drop out altogether, and Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is also now accusing California Governor Gavin Newsom of running a shadow campaign to rival President Biden for that Democratic nomination, a claim that Newsom has repeatedly denied. But I want to bring back our panel here, John, Christina, LZ, and ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, I find this fascinating, although not surprising. What do you make of how Democrats are responding to President Biden's polling? And Rick, if he was to step down, do you think that Newsom would be the best contender based on how Democrats stepped up during his recall election out here? It sounds to me like he might have the Democratic support at least.
Well, I don't think it would be handed to him by any stretch. I think it would be a wide open race. Governor Newsom would be one of many contenders. People talk about Governor Whitmer in Michigan. People would talk about Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota. There's a lot of other people would get in addition to Vice President Harris, of course. But look, the last couple of polls have really shaken Democrats, because I think at the very least it has dispelled of the notion that this is going to be an automatic, or that this would be an automatic for Joe Biden. And these are the concerns, frankly, that I think people are having around the country in every conversation that I've had. I'm sure that lots of Democrats and Biden aides have the same conversations. A lot of people are down on Joe Biden's leadership. They're worried about his ability to finish out his term strong. They're worried about things around the economy, where Democrats are less trusted than Republicans in polls, including ours. And that's something that Democrats, maybe too late, but it's something that they have to come to terms with and understand, and I think increasingly are, even as the primary process is about to begin.
Wow. And John, to you, what is your take on the frontrunners for both parties here in these sort of abysmal numbers?
Well, there are abysmal numbers for both of them as far as favorability goes. And they both kind of need each other in order to survive politically, at least to get to the general election. The worst possible case for Trump would be if Biden stepped aside. So if Biden decides to step aside down the road and have someone else run, it's cataclysmic for Trump, because Trump can't beat anybody else. And the polls will show that. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this unfolds. But make no mistake, the general public does not want either one of them. And that's clear in the polling. And it's kind of like a race to the bottom. And if Biden steps out, it's very bad news for Trump.
Interesting. LZ, what's your take on not only what John just said, but also, again, this shadow campaign that Fetterman is accusing Newsom of running?
Well, I think it's like one of the worst kept secrets. He's running a shadow campaign. I mean, as someone who's based in LA, I can tell you what both, Democratic donors as well as the everyday person says. They all are calling him out as it's happening. And I think that's one of the reasons why Democrats are nervous. It's not simply the fact that Biden's poll numbers are down, but that the sharks within his own party are circling. And so it just doesn't look as a good presentation. My suggestion is, if you want to be president, then take it. Stop waiting for Joe Biden to decide whether or not he's going to run. Be a leader. Show the American people that you want to be president by first taking this first bold step. They tried to get then Senator Barack Obama to wait his turn. What happened? He made history. That's how you lead.
Interesting. And Christina, 1 year from Election Day, an ABC News IPSOS poll is showing that Republicans are perceived actually as better at handling the economy than Democrats, which really defies the success that Biden is trying to tout with his Bidenomics agenda. So can he change things? Can he turn things around? Or is it too late? Because Americans are really feeling that pinch economically.
Well, in 2022, we saw very similar polling numbers, and it indicated that Republicans were going to have a sweep across the board. And then we saw Democrats really hold their own and flip some key Senate seats even. So if you dig in these poll numbers where you see Biden has real problems or opportunities also is with African-American, Latino, and young voters. They have lost ground with this core base of the Democratic Party. And so you're seeing them start to make investments into that constituency a year out, more so than they ever have made. But they need to be doing more. The Biden administration really needs to be speaking to the economic pain of the American people. And there's a lot that they can build off. The Inflation Reduction Act has added 200,000 jobs, and they need to be making the argument, give us another 4 years so that we can continue to turn the economy around and that you can feel it in your pocketbook. So there is a lot to build off of, and they just need to continue to go out there and do it and spend the money and time to make sure that message is getting across to voters.
And Rick, do you have a response to? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't agree because I personally wrote a piece 2 years ago pointing out that President Biden was having a problem with black voters. This isn't new information. This is information they didn't do anything with. I wrote a piece. It was in the Washington Post. Other news outlets wrote pieces about his problems with young voters as well as black voters. And the administration, if they did something about it, I don't see any benefits that have come from whatever they wanted to do about it.
Well, I think one thing that's important is that they're putting money into it, right? We've seen historic spent money into reaching and connecting with influencers in the African American community. And I agree, they need to be doing more. The polls and numbers indicate that. It's a problem that we've seen growing, and this poll indicates that there's more work to be done.
And there's clearly more work to be done across the board, I think, for this administration. And Rick, can you weigh in on some of this? I mean, when we're talking about how he's not keeping up with not only his base, people are upset about the economy, and he's falling off with some of his other voters out there. So what is your response to not only that, Rick, but what John said about how if Biden wasn't the nominee, that would be the best thing for Trump?
Yeah, in a weird way, the best thing that Biden has going for him is the opposition to Trump, and the best thing that Trump has going for him is the opposition to Biden. They sort of need each other to make the core argument for them to run. And whatever else you say about Joe Biden, he's the only guy who's ever beaten Donald Trump in an election, and it was a legitimately decided election. And I think, look, the concern for Democrats, I think at this point, to LZ's point, these aren't really new concerns. I think the worry has to be, is it too late? Because are you in a spiral where you can't really come out of that?
Right, and asking Americans for more time doesn't always work in a moment like this. I appreciate this debate and this conversation, everybody. Thank you so much, John, Christina, LZ, and Rick.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.